Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of Civilization 6 Tutorials. And today we are going to be covering what has to be one of the most highly requested topics that people want to see in a tutorial. And that is, of course, how to settler spam. Now, I classify this tutorial as an intermediate level topic, as I believe it is something that can be picked up quite easily by anyone who is already able to win games fairly regularly at Prince level difficulty, but is looking to pick up some tips and tricks to perhaps begin playing at a higher difficulty level. With that being said, I'm sure there are plenty of advanced level players out there who may not be aware of this concept or hasn't quite grasped all the nuances of the strategy, who will find this video very useful as well. So with that said, let's jump right in and begin discussing the steps involved in performing an efficient settler spam. And those steps start on turn 1. The first step to ensuring you'll be able to perform an efficient settler spam is choosing a map that is going to provide you with a capital that has sufficient production chops that you'll later be able to use to produce the settlers. Now, this does not mean you have to have a capital that is surrounded by amazing tiles. You do not need 2 tiles as far as the eye can see. What I do look for as a good rule of thumb is, do I have at least 6 good production chops that will fall inside the first 2 rings of my city? And by the way, for those of you who aren't aware or aren't sure exactly what I mean when I say chops, I'm simply referring to harvestable features or resources on the map that I can harvest or chop to provide immediate yields to my city. And in this case, we're looking for woods, stone, and deer as they provide pure production. And as you can see here, if we were to place our city down in this very location, we'd have a couple of trees here, and a stone is 3. There's another tree up here would be 4. And then there's a deer and a tree up here that would also fall inside the first 2 rings to provide us with 6. And of course, in the 3rd ring, it looks like there's a couple more chops out there, which can always be valuable for either additional settler chops or to help you produce a wonder later in the game. And you can also see that I do have some trees on this silk tile, on this silk tile, and on this wine tile. But I try not to chop the trees off of my luxuries and resources like that when they're a strong tile that's going to be helpful to make this city productive throughout the game. Now, sometimes I will chop them down if I'm kind of desperate to try and finish off a wonder, maybe a little bit later in the game. I'll chop these trees down at that point. But you can see, once we chop down a lot of this stuff out here, we're going to have a pretty flat city in a lot of cases. There's going to be 1 or 2 hills here. And then, of course, there's these 3 really strong tiles that will be able to carry us for most of the game. So if I start reducing the value of those tiles by chopping down the trees now, then the city's going to be worse and worse as we move forward past the settler spam. And you don't want a capital that is really quite poor. You want to have a capital that can get some things done even after your settler spam is done. So, with that said, I would just simply click on my settler and settle my city. Okay, folks, so it's turn 23 and America has settled city number 2. By the way, the reason I actually chose to use America for this tutorial is that it's the 4th of July today, and my friends to the south are celebrating their Independence Day. So, in honor of them, we're playing good old Teddy Roosevelt. And it is time for Teddy to take step 2 on his way to successful settler spam. And step 2 is the builders. And more specifically, making sure you have enough builder charges when it comes time to harvest the production for our settlers. So the question then becomes, what can you do to get those builders online and ready to go? Well, there's a number of ways you can do it. Obviously, if you get lucky, you can get 1 or sometimes even 2 builders out of goody huts. Sometimes I have the worst luck with that, but then other times it seems like I've got builders, 2 or 3 builders sometimes from goody huts. So you can't count on it, but if you're lucky, you can get 1 or 2. Hopefully you get 1 fairly early and you can start to produce or start to improve the tiles like I've done here. I've got the rice going, I've got the pasture going for the horses over here, and we're about to do our 3rd one. over here on the stone, which is going to give us our third improved tile, which is going to give us our improvement of craftsmanship, which will lead to the Ilcum policy card, which is 30% production towards builders, which we are going to want to use quite soon. Of course, if you are good with your money, if you get lucky, you have to get some money maybe from goody huts. You clear a couple barb camps, you're going to get gold. If you get a luxury and meet somebody you can sell it to early, finding ways to get money early is always good. And you can usually buy at least one, if not two builders with gold before it's time to chop out your settlers. So you're usually able to get one or two that way. But finally, like I said, you are going to have to produce at least one or two builders from your cities, depending on how things are going. And that means we're going to go in here and start on a builder. Now, it's 5 turns at the moment, but next turn, like I said, we're going to get this boost right here. Craftsmanship will be done. We'll put in that card, and that 5 turns should become something significantly less. We'll go ahead and click on that. Change your policies. Now, in this case, we could wait and just go ahead and continue to get to grab our faith and push towards our Pantheon, which is actually be a good idea. You could always put this card in a little bit later if you need to produce another one. When you look at this city over here, we are going to get it out in 4 turns, which is pretty efficient. We're actually almost population 5, which may actually give us enough production to take a turn off anyway. In this case, because we are in pretty good shape on time, it's still only turn 24. I'd probably keep faith in to push towards our Pantheon and keep that card turned off at the moment. But once we have our Pantheon, certainly without a doubt, at that point, I would put the card in, especially if you needed, like, say, a couple more. You could get a builder going in both cities in order to bring out the builders. Because in addition to obviously doing the chops for the production, you're also going to want to improve other tiles. Like, you're still going to want to improve some tiles down in this city. Before too long, we've got 3 tiles here that we can put plantations on. And all 3 of those are going to provide lots of gold, so you're not going to want to wait too long on those either. So you're probably going to want 5 or 6 builders in this early game. So producing 2 or 3 in cities is going to be a thing, and you're going to want to use that Ilcum government policy card. Alright, so it's turn 31, and as you can see, we've got the same 2 cities. And it's right around this point in the game where you may calculate that you have enough time to squeeze out another settler before moving on with the rest of the steps in preparation for the settler span. Now, in the case of our game, we've had some incredible luck that has pushed us through the culture tree much more quickly than usual. We got a very early first meet on a city-state up here, the cultural city-state, which gave us culture in the capital. We also found a second continent up here, which gave us a boost. We even got the boost to state workforce in a goody hut, which is extremely valuable because oftentimes you can't get a district built fast enough to get that boost. So getting that was also very good. So we literally got every boost. We got early culture from Antananarivo. We also got culture from the Silks, both in our first city and in our second city, which we settled on. So what ended up happening is we didn't have enough time. I could potentially get a settler out here in 8 turns, but it would leave us behind when we get to political philosophy. So in this case, I'm going to squeeze out this builder just in time to be ready to move on. But like I said, in most games, with a typical culture tree progression and a fairly productive capital, you tend to have about 6 to 10 turns to play with right around here, which you can choose to do a number of things with, including getting out another settler. Now, if you're planning a science game and you want to boost up your science per turn and get a move on cap grade scientist points, well, then building a campus at this point would also be a very good choice. But like I said, in our case, we're going to get that builder going just in time to move on with the next steps down the line. So that leaves us with step 3, which is the governors. Now, let's take a look at where we're going to get our governor promotions and what we're going to do with them. So if we go in here to our culture tree and open this thing up, you can see here that at state workforce and early empire, you get a governor promotion there and a governor promotion there. In addition, we will be building a government plaza and a building inside the government plaza, which each give a governor promotion as well. So at the end, we're going to have 4 promotions in total before we start the actual chopping down of settler trees. So what does that mean? That means we get to give 4 promotions to governors. So let's take a look at the governors and what we're going to do. The first thing we're going to do is take a look at Magnus. Magnus's abilities are the key to settler spam. His first ability is 50% yields from plot harvests and feature removals in the city. That means when we chop down those trees or chop down the deer or the stone or whatever, you get a 50% bonus to the yields that you normally would get any other time, which of course is going to be very valuable as we try to chop out the settlers as quickly as possible. So Groundbreaker is step number 1. Step number 2 is his tier 2 promotion, which is Provision. This is such that settlers are trained in this city do not consume a population. And of course, if we're going to be chopping out 6, 7, 8 or more settlers from a city in a very short period of time, the last thing you want to do is lose a population every time one of those settlers comes out. Because you would literally go from population 7 or 8 to population 2 in 10 turns. And you do not want that. So, Groundbreaker and Provision on Magnus is of the utmost importance. However, like I said, we don't actually need those promotions until it's time to actually do the chopping of the settlers. So we can save those 2 promotions that are required to the last 2, which means we've got 2 more to play with as we pick up these first 2. And in almost every case, I suggest Pingala for these. There are arguments to be made for a couple of other ones. If you want to get an early suzerain of a city-state, sometimes you can put a Mani in to give you an extra 2 envoys with the city-state. That can be very valuable, particularly to help you out with getting a golden age if you're in the position for that. If you're trying to get extra charges on builders, you could go with Guildmaster if you wanted. But the premium value of Pingala, with his first promotion giving you 15% science and culture in your capital, or whatever city they're established in, but in this case the capital, as well as being able to boost your culture or science with the second promotion by getting a science or culture per citizen in that city, is extremely valuable this early in the game. As you can see, we've got just under 8 science and culture per turn at the moment in this game. In some cases, you might have even less than that at this point. And being able to get, let's say you have a capital with 6 population, you can get 6 culture or 6 science just like that, and potentially double or almost double the culture and science you're getting from that city just like that. That's going to push you. That's going to be such a huge impact early in the game. So the value of this is so valuable. It's just, I can't make an argument for anything else unless it's an extreme situation that you have a particular need for. So in this case, I'm going to appoint Pingala. And I'm going to point them to Washington. And so we have population 5, soon to be population 6, like I said. And so once we finish early empire, we'll be able to give a second promotion to Pingala. And once he's established in the city, we're going to be getting a big old boost to either our science or culture, depending on which one we decide we need the most. So that is absolutely the right choice. And like I said, as we move down the line, you'll see that we'll use 2 more promotions on Magnus, which we'll want to put into the capital a little later in the steps. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for step number 4, which is the government plaza. Now, the government plaza, of course, is going to go in our capital, and you can see here, I have planned out the districts not only for the capital, but a couple of adjacent cities that will be over here taking advantage of the government plaza as well. And since the government plaza is going to go in this location right here, that is where we will plop it down. And you can see here, it is going to take us 4 turns, which is convenient because political philosophy will be done in 4 turns. And it is extremely important that the government plaza be done before political philosophy is complete, or at least on the exact same turn, which is this case. The reason for that is because the next step in the process begins when political philosophy is done, and you can't do the next step until the government plaza is actually complete itself. So, very important to have that done. The reason why I actually cut it so close is because I realized that my housing was only at 8. And I knew I was going to be I was about to become population 7. And of course, if I was population 7 out of housing of 8, I would start to take a 50% penalty to my food growth. And I didn't want that. So I decided to quickly chop out the granary and get the granary done just in time to give me the housing of 10, which will allow my capital to continue to grow very nicely while we move on with things. Because if I didn't get the granary done now, it was going to be quite a long time before I could get it in there. So it was important to get it done before all the next steps come along. So I squeezed that in there. We've got the housing of 10, like I said, and we did it just in time to get the government plaza done just before political philosophy is complete. So, political philosophy is complete, and it is time to choose our new government. And, invariably, the best choice is Classic Republic. Now, if you were going for a domination victory, then you would probably choose oligarchy, but if you're going for domination victory, then you wouldn't be going for a settler spam, which is, of course, what we're working on here today. So, Classic Republic, it's what you want. So take it. Which is going to give us 3 era score. Fantastic. And we're also going to put in some cards. So we don't need the settler card yet. We will get to the settler card, but we don't need to put it in until this step is complete. So in this case, I'm actually going to put in the reduce the cost of purchasing tiles card, because there's a couple tiles I'd like to buy for my cities right now. I'm going to keep this in so we can continue to work on builders. Actually, you know what? No. The one builder's done, I think. I'm actually going to take the extra 1 production. There. Now, as the U.S., we get an extra wild card policy slot. Excuse me. So, I should say diplomatic policy slot becomes wild card, is what I should say. So, I'm going to put +2 in here, and I'm also going to put in the discipline card, because we do have some barbs hanging around still. So, we're going to put discipline in, charismatic leader. That's good to go. Not particularly important. What is important is for you guys to know what the next step is. It is time to build our first tier government building, which is, of course, step 5 of our process, and that is Ancestral Hall. And when it comes to Ancestral Hall, I feel like it would be difficult to overstate just how powerful it is. So let's take a look at this Ancestral Hall building before we click on it and start building. 50% increased production towards settlers in this city. Of course, that is the main reason that we're using it for settler spam. But new cities receive a free builder. That is the key. Not just 1, but 2 extremely valuable benefits, which make this invariably the best building you can get at any tier in the government plaza. It is phenomenally powered. I cannot tell you enough how much more powerful this is than any other government building. And the fact that you can get it at tier 1 early in the game to have this much of an impact on the game from this point is fantastic. Later in the video at the end, I'm going to just take a couple moments to show you just how powerful those extra builders are in all the cities that that we are going to be creating. So click on Ancestral Hall and away we go. 9 turns. Now, you might be thinking, hey, let's just chop this bad boy out. Well, we can't really do that, because if we had chopped it out, then we would be wasting the chops in this city that will be going towards settlers. And of course, we're going to be getting a lot more bonus production when we're doing settlers once this building is complete. So for now, the next 9 turns, it's all about patience. Okay, guys, time for step 6, which is Magnus. Time to put Magnus in the capital. We want to make sure he's established in time to start our settler spam the moment Ancestral Hall is done. Now, it does say there's 6 turns left in Ancestral Hall, and it takes 5 turns to establish, but we're going to go to pop 8 here in 3 turns, and it is entirely possible that 1 extra turn, or that 1 extra population for those final 3 turns could actually chop it down and reduce it to 5. So you don't want to take a chance of starting next turn and then finding out that there's only 4 more turns left in Ancestral Hall, and then you have to sit around and wait a turn before Magnus is established before you can start your chops. So let's throw Magnus into Washington, and we'll move Pingala over to Philadelphia. Now you might be wondering, well, why wait to the last second? Well, Pingala in the capital, you can see there's 3 more population. Over the last few turns, it's been 3 or 4 higher population than Philadelphia in Washington. So the last thing you want to do is give up all of that science or culture, depending on which promotion you gave Pingala, from the extra population that you're getting. So as you can see, our science is going to go down from moving Pingala out of Washington, that bonus 7 science we're getting. So you want to delay losing that science as long as possible. All right, ladies and gentlemen, the time has come. The Ancestral Hall is complete. But before we get on with step 7, I just want to point out something very, very important that I think you guys should consider when you're watching this tutorial. It is currently turn 50 in this game, and that is incredibly fast to beginning the settler spam. It is extremely rare that you would have everything go this right in order to have the settler spam begin now. In fact, at turn 50 is typically a pretty good point to aim for when you should actually finish political philosophy and be beginning the Ancestral Hall. So somewhere between turn 58 and turn 60 is really when you would think you'd be at this point for getting the settler spam underway. We got incredibly lucky, as I spoke before. Antananarivo came in and saw us like 3 turns into the game. That's 2 culture in the capital. We had culture tile in the capital and in our second city. We got every single boost all the way through. We met city-states. We found a new continent. We even got a goody hut that had the state workforce boost in it. I mean, we just couldn't have had things go smoother. So it's not really turning out to be a typical game, which is unfortunate because I would have liked to have been a little bit more typical to be doing this tutorial for. But just keep in mind that turn 50 is incredibly early. Turn 50, like I said, is almost as a nice little benchmark for a good game for getting to political philosophy. If it takes you to turn 60 to get a political philosophy, you're a little bit slow. You should try and improve that. But yeah, turn 50 is a good target. Turn 60 for starting your settler spam is a little bit more realistic. Now, let's get on with step number 7, which is the big turn. That's what I decided to call it because that's what it is. It's important to do all these things in the right order. I've done it before, and I was cursing for it. You get all excited. Ancestral Hall's done. You throw a settler into production and you start chopping stuff down. You're like, oh, wait a minute. I lost track of my thoughts. I didn't get everything done. First things first. Magnus is established. He needs his promotion to provision. So we stop losing, or we no longer lose population from completing settlers. Trust me, I've been there. Chop out a couple of settlers, and then you look over and you wonder, why did my capital go down a couple of population? Oh, that's why. Make sure you do that first. The other thing you got to make sure you do, you got to change your policies out. I'm actually going to move that out. And I'm going to move out this because I no longer need that. I'm going to turn in the colonization card for 50% production. I'm going to keep in the urban planning for 1 extra production. I'm going to keep this in, of course, and I'm actually going to turn on... I think I'll probably just go ahead and turn on this for an extra couple gold per turn right now because we don't have any worries about barbs at the moment. And all of this other stuff is needed. So, confirm those policies up. And that is step 2 of step 7. That's the second part, anyway. Now, we've done that. We're no longer going to lose promotions. We have the 50% production card turned on for towards settlers. We have Ancestral Hall built, which is giving us another 50% production, meaning a total of 100% bonus production towards settlers. So now when we chop stuff down, we're not going to get the 58 production, but we're actually going to get 116 production towards those settlers. And keep in mind that that 58 is actually more than it normally would be because we're getting a 50% bonus from Magnus. So that 58 would be something more like 40 something or whatever, 39.5 or whatever the number would be. So we're getting a bonus towards the production and then getting a bonus towards the production of settlers. Absolutely, this is where we want it to be. Time to start producing settlers. So click on our first settler, and just like that, we've got one done. Click on another settler, and just like that, pop it out, and it's almost done. Next turn it will be complete. This settler is ready to go. Now, as far as where to send them, I tend to send them to the farthest ones first, so that way all the cities can kind of get established at the same time. Unless you've got one particular city that's, you know, is really going to be super awesome strong and you want to get established super early. But other than that, there's not really a need to. So I'm going to send this one south because it's a long ways down here. Then we'll get ones going to the left and right here, and then the rest. And beyond that, we just have our slinger here. Just going to keep this area clear of barbs just in case. And we'll click next turn. And this settler's going to pop out. Just like that. And we got no need to change our policies. We did finish games in rec. We'll move on real quick to that. Nothing important there to worry about. Choose production. Right back to settler, of course. This settler continues to move south. We'll send this one, I guess, east. And now, this guy will move over here. 5 turns. Chop that one. And I'm also going to chop this. That settler is now done. We'll start up another one. And we'll begin moving this settler to the... we'll put this guy over here first. And move this guy to the north. And this guy going to here. And that should be just about it. We got our scout here. I'm actually going to move the scout just to kind of make sure we don't run into any problems with this guy. And I have my warrior in here. I'm actually going to move my warrior this way. Kind of help make sure things stay clear in that direction. In here, really quickly, I'm just trying to move through the settler spam so you can see it. I'd love to start my campus, but I don't have the money to buy the tile. You know what? Let's throw up the ancient walls for the boost. Might as well do it because we got to do it eventually. Oops. And next turn. So, next turn, we go ahead and clear that stone. And we'll chop out this. There's another settler. Start up this one. Move this guy ready to chop that. And... oh, we got another chop up here. I forgot about that one. I guess this guy will go in that direction. This guy will chop this. And then we'll keep going. So this guy is headed over here. Gonna have to come down through here. I'm gonna send this guy over here. This guy is going over here. Go and clear that out. So that guy's going there. Continue to move that warrior. And doesn't really matter. In here, I guess we're going to construction. Unit needs orders. Doesn't really matter. We're heading here, so I guess we'll just keep going like that. Looks clear down here. Next turn. Boom. Let's make sure it's all clear here as we bring our settler over. This guy is going to be a couple turns getting there, but that's okay. This guy is going to chop down this tree. That settler will be done next turn. This guy's moving across. I think I'll have this guy head up there. This is a really good city, so we want to get that one going. So after this settler, we'll have one going to there. We'll have one going to here. We're getting close. We'll have, I think, 2 more to go, so not too shabby at all. We can come out here, and that'll give us a little bit more population and some extra production chop, like that. We don't need to send our envoy. This guy's just crossing over here. And don't want to send my envoy. Go next turn.
May the forces of evil be...
And just like that, we'll start up another settler. This guy is heading to there. So as you can see, we've got settlers, 2 settlers heading to the right, 2 settlers heading up to the left, another settler heading south. We got this settler, which will come over here. We literally have just spammed out 5 settlers in 4 turns. And when we chop this out and this out, this one will be done probably next turn, which will mean that that will be 6 settlers in 5 turns, and we'll need just 1 more to be done, which will take us just a few more turns after that. So when we come back, I will have just one final thing to show you, which is I'm going to put these cities in place. We're going to lay them all down, and I'm going to show you what happens when you have builders in every city when they're established. Okay, so before we wrap up this settler spam tutorial, I just wanted to show you an example of just how amazing the extra builder in each new founded city really is. So, as you can see, I've established on this turn 6 new cities. St. Louis, Cincinnati, Los Angeles, Boston, Cleveland, and Chicago. We were at 8 cities. And they each have their own builder, and they've each had their monument started. So I'm going to come back in a few turns and I'll show you just what that extra builder was able to do to get these cities underway quickly. Okay guys, it's been 5 short turns since we settled these cities. Let's see the progress they've made in the meantime. Keeping in mind, if these guys did not start with a builder, then they would still be all population 1 and have 10 to 20 turns left to complete their monument. So, where are we? We've got this city up to population 3. The monument is complete and they're beginning work on the granary. Also, they're working the turtles tile out here, which, keep in mind, is a luxury that we did not have before. So that is a big advantage there. And all 3 tiles that are being worked right now by this population 3 are in fact very good tiles. Next, we have Cleveland. And Cleveland is also population 3 and are 3 turns away from completing the monument. And they have lots of great tiles to work as well. 4 of them, in fact. So this city is underway really, really nicely. Up here in Boston, we are now working a second luxury, the cocoa. So that's 2 luxuries we've added to our repertoire because we had these builders going. And this city at population 3 and the monument in 6 is working 3 solid tiles and will continue to grow very nicely because of it. Up here in Los Angeles, almost population 4, the monument is done and they're working on the granary, which will be done in just 6 turns. We actually have 1 more charge on the builder up here, which will get this charged up here, which will give us more housing and give this city even more gold. And of course, another copy of the chocolate here. Working some fantastic tiles in Los Angeles. Over here in Cincinnati and St. Louis, these cities did not start off with nearly as good a tiles as some of the other ones, but they are nearing population 3 and the monuments have just 5 turns left on them. A 3rd copy of Cocoa underway, so that is plenty of gold we'll be able to sell off the extras for. And they're working some pretty good tiles now. A little bit of production lacking here, but we've got a stone here and some mines on the peripherals, and we'll be able to get some lumber mills in here to make this city certainly a lot better than it is now. Same thing down here in St. Louis. We're actually working a 3rd new luxury on this coast here. We're working the pearls, so that's 3 new luxuries, which has all cities currently under happy status, which we would not be if it wasn't for the luxuries that we got from these workers. And as you can see, they're working fairly good tiles, nothing fantastic. This city will probably be a bit of a struggle for its existence because it's mostly flat and on the coast, not a lot of production, but it's another city. You can build a campus up here in the mountains and get some science out of it. That's the worst case scenario. So there you go. That's just how powerful those builders are. In just 5 short turns, look at what we've done. These cities are up and running. The monuments are going. The granaries are going. Population, working extra tiles. We've got more luxuries. Just that alone, if you didn't even get the 50% extra production towards settlers from Ancestral Hall, the production alone is fantastic. Unbelievable. And you can see it right there. So that wraps up this tutorial. I hope you guys have really enjoyed it. I hope it's been clear. I've tried my best to lay it out step by step so that you guys can follow along and get your own settler spams going. If you have any questions about how to get this done, is anything that wasn't clear or anything you want to, any other questions you want to add that, maybe I didn't cover here, please leave the comments down below. I promise you, I will get back to you as soon as possible. No worries there. Really appreciate it, guys. And of course, if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel if you have not done so already. And we'll have lots more tutorials and content coming at you every single day. We'll see you next time, folks. Bye-bye.